fucking intro. We getting straight into it. We got business to talk about. DC calling Dustin Poirier a quitter. Two Lafayette, Louisiana boys going at it, possibly in the future. DC calling this man a quitter. Let's see what we're talking about. I'm not going to waste y'all's time. Let's get straight into it.
It's about the punches and the kicks.
See what y'all has to say.
Are you better with the hands and the feet than I am? But the reality, when you're in there, you and I know this, it's a battle of wills. I'm trying to break your spirit and you're trying to break mine. You might be able to do it.
Chael says it's a battle of wills. We have to understand what Chael's talking about right here to understand what DC's about to talk about here soon. But he's talking about what the fuck he's talking about. He said that fighting is a battle of wills and that the person with the stronger will always win. Let's hear what else he has to say about it.
But really quickly, by showing me that I'm not ready for this, or I don't want this bad enough, or you might have to be out there a while.
Doesn't want this bad enough. Just remember these words, guys. Just remember these words. Chael Sonnen.
To do it. And the reason I tell you that, we take inventory as athletes. Let's just say you lose the first round, you go to your corner, you're doing the math in your head. Okay, I got 4 more of these left. This is terrible. It didn't start off.
Chael has always talked about, like in his videos and stuff, he always talks about how there's always one person who's going to quit, saying that they realize in their head at some point in the fight that that he's not going to win, and he tries to find a way out of there, which we will hear from Chael here shortly.
Going well. I feel worse now. Not going to be my night. Let me start finding a way out. And that's
boom, keywords, finding a way out. Now that's something that I would say a quitter would do. What would y'all say? I'm sure y'all say the same shit.
Just the reality of a fighter, and some take that and some can push that voice away and reset. But one thing about Dustin Poirier, he never does that. Some can push that voice away and reset. But one thing about Dustin Poirier, he never does that inventory.
One thing is Dustin Poirier never does that inventory. So I don't think Chael's calling Dustin Poirier a quitter. I just think he brought that up for a different statement. I believe he was just saying that this is something that he found out during his fight career. Something he brings up all the time. I think this is something that's his Joe Rogan topic, something he brings up every fucking time anything ever happens. That's his Joe Rogan topic. There's a quitter in every fight. But we're going to zoom up a little bit ahead, and we're going to hear what DC has to say about all this. This is DC's response. We're going to hear what the fuck DC has to say.
I remember watching Dustin Poirier, and
he remembers watching Dustin Poirier. Where at exactly? How long for? What does he remember Dustin Poirier for, and for how long?
Watching his entire career. I've seen him from the very start, right? I trained
from the very start. He trained with him.
Watching his entire career. I've seen him from the very start, right?
From the start.
I trained with him before he even made his UFC debut.
Before he even fought in the UFC, DC has known this man for a long time. What does DC have to say about a man that he has known for a long time, he's trained with, who he's seen before he even made it to the professional fighting organization that he is currently in? What does he have to say about this man that he has known for so long and for such a in-depth period of time?
The same hometown. And I watched
from
that fight
from the same hometown, Lafayette, Louisiana. What does he have to say about the man?
Khabib, and he said to his corner, I've never felt someone so strong. And
we've heard DC talk about this a time or 6. We've heard other people talk about this a time or 6. I'm pretty sure the UFC mics picked this up. But what does this have to do anything? Like, what does this have to do with anything, DC? Tell us. Let the people know. That's what we want to know, right?
With Khabib, and he said to his corner, I've never felt someone so strong.
Never.
And he found himself getting submitted. And I remember watching him against Charles.
You remember him getting submitted by Khabib. Now you also remember him facing Charles Oliveira. What's the correlation, man? What's the correlation between these DC, Daniel Cormier?
And he found himself getting submitted. And I remember watching him against Charles Oliveira. And his body language didn't look great. And I think, Chael, that's...
His body language didn't look great. I mean, whether this is accurate or not, what are you alluding to, man? What are you talking about? Why are you piecing these things together? Why have you talked about everything you have seen that this man has done since before the UFC. Y'all came from the same hometown. You know this man better than a lot of people in the world would. You're correlating his losses together. For what reason exactly? Keep in mind what Chael said earlier.
One so strong. And he found himself getting submitted. And I remember watching him against Charles Oliveira. And his body language didn't look great. And I think Chael, that spoke to you, you know, what you just said. Sometimes you know it's not your night. Then
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that?
we watched, and his body language didn't look great. And I think, Chael, that spoke to you, you know, what you just said. Sometimes you know it's not your night.
Sometimes you know it's not your night. Are you trying to say Dustin Poirier knew it wasn't his night? Now, when exactly did Dustin Poirier figure this out? DC, Daniel Cormier.
You know, what you just said. Sometimes you know it's not your night. Then we watched him against Benoit Saint-Denis. And it was the same type of situation presented to him again.
Bringing up a win this time, you're correlating 2 losses with a win, back to back with everything you said before. Blah, blah, blah. What exactly about this fight is different than the 2 losses that he had before? And keep in mind, at what point in time, before, during, or after the fight, did Dustin Poirier realize it wasn't his night? Let's listen to this, guys.
But he overcame it. And it was the same type of situation. Then we watched him against Benoit Saint-Denis.
Which was only a short time period ago. Dustin Poirier didn't look very good in the first round, but he came back in the second, pulled it off. Benoit Saint-Denis collapsed after the first. Now, whether I'm talking about his fighting or his lungs, that's a different story, but Dustin ended up coming back, getting a TKO finish, I believe. I don't know if that didn't qualify as a KO, but TKO finish in the second round after a bad first. Okay, DC, take it on, brother.
And it was the same type of situation presented to him again, but he overcame it.
The same situation, so the same situation in the Khabib and Oliveira fight that happened in the Benoit Saint-Denis fight, which he ended up losing early in the fight and overcoming something? Overcoming what exactly? What was different in the Benoit Saint-Denis fight? What was different?
Situation presented to him again, but he overcame it. And I feel like that is very indicative of who Dustin Poirier is today. Because of the loss to Justin Gaethje in Utah for the BMF title, he recognized that there is no more rope. I can't say
there's no more rope, so there's nothing left. Is he trying to say that Dustin Poirier finally figured out that this is the last loss he can take? He only has one more loss in his career before this is over with. That's what it sounds like to me Daniel Cormier is saying. And so what he's trying to say before is he knew in the fights against Khabib and against Oliveira that this wasn't his last loss. And he's alluding to that he decided that tonight just wasn't his night. Those nights were not his nights. And he found an easy way out. This was DC's response to Chael's statements about every fighter or every fight having a fighter knowing that tonight's not their night and they need to figure out a way out. DC, you've seen Dustin Poirier as a kid. You've seen this man. You were his elder. You were his hero, his hometown hero. And you've seen everything that this man has done since he was a child, since his career has started. And this is what you have to say about him. You want to compare his losses to his most recent win and say that it was at this moment he realized that he fucked up. It was at this moment that he realized that he doesn't have another opportunity to lose, that he has to make a change, he has to make a switch, which might be true. But if it is true, are you trying to say that that same switch wasn't flipped during the Khabib and Oliveira fight? Are you trying to say that he quit those fights? Is DC calling Dustin Poirier a quitter? You know, let's see if those words ever come out of his mouth or he's too pussy to say it.
If I lose this one, I can come back the next time. he still has goals to become a champion. And he knew on that night in Miami, even though things aren't going my way, I have to overcome this.
Dustin Poirier didn't feel that in the championship fights previously against Khabib and Oliveira. Dustin Poirier didn't feel like he had to overcome the bad ratings that were in that fight. Dustin Poirier just decided that he doesn't want to overcome these things. Are you calling Dustin Poirier a person that doesn't want to overcome adversity? That's what a quitter does, DC. And I think that is exactly what you were calling Dustin Poirier. Are you going to say it? Just come out and say it. Let's see if he does. I don't believe he does.
And I believe he's better for it because he overcame Benoit Saint-Denis in the way that he did, earns himself a championship opportunity, so that when he's in there with Islam, he knows now that he can pull himself back to where he needs to be, where, like you said, Chael, it takes one. For Dustin Poirier, it takes one.
It just takes one. And he knows now that he has to overcome this now. So was Dustin Poirier a quitter before? Is Dustin Poirier no longer a quitter? Does he still have a little bit of quit in him? What are you trying to say, DC? Answer up. Let the people know. I'm pretty sure this video will have a pretty good respond rate because after watching it, you'll realize this is exactly what the fuck DC is talking about. Daniel Cormier, DC, Daniel Cormier. You're going to call a younger man from your hometown, someone who you seen grow up in this organization, someone who you said you've seen before they even made it in this organization. You're going to say that he was quitting in his two previous championship opportunities? Is that what you're trying to say? Thank you guys, and I hope y'all made it this far. I hope y'all realize everything that I realized. It didn't take me long to see this. I was driving, riding around. I really like to listen to Good Guy and the Bad Guy. It's one of my frequents in my MMA world and combat, television shows and podcasts and etc. They're definitely in the lineup, and I had to pause this, man. I've listened to it a few times. I wanted to really understand what DC was talking about. This motherfucker called Dustin Poirier a quitter. Sad to say. Peace. See y'all in the next one.